Hey, good morning. Thanks for coming by my channel. Let's see, today is Thursday, the 29th of September. It's early, it's not even quite 8 o'clock yet. For those of you that have been watching me, welcome back. For anybody who's new, welcome. Thank you for checking me out. Let me just tell you a little bit about myself to start off. First of all, I've only been doing this channel for less than a month. So I'm super amazed and excited about how many views I've had. It's getting close to 35,000. And how many subs I have. I checked last night and it was about 350. Or sorry, 550. I need more coffee. So I'm like more than halfway to 1,000. Once you hit 1,000, you hit a threshold where you're like more of like a professional YouTuber, I guess. And one of the great things that you can do, I don't really know that much about it, but you can go live. So people are commenting on your what you're saying, and you can read it right there, and then you can respond to questions. So it's more like an interaction. And I really am getting a lot out of your comments. So if you haven't already, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button if you'd be so kind. And please comment your thoughts and feelings about this case, because honestly, I think that's the only way these people are not getting away with murder, is people expressing their thoughts and feelings about the case. And when I say people, let me go first right for the money, okay? Mr. Ryan Upchurch. Very controversial in this case. I had never come across him prior, and I immediately recognized him as a very bold, honest individual. And outlandish. You know, some of the stuff he says is very outlandish, and that kicks up a lot of dirt. And then when the dust settles, you see where the chips fall. And I definitely think he's doing that intentionally to smoke out the rats. So when he said the infamous statement, you know, Kiely's not real, he's gone on Zav Girl and explained why he said that. Because he says at the time he really believed it. I never believed it, and I really honestly didn't even think he believed it. I thought he was trying to make a point and kind of speaking in metaphor that, you know, when we're watching things on the news or watching it on YouTube, we don't know who's real and who's not real. So, you know, there's so much BS, especially in this Kiely Rodni case. And it's just devastating for those of us who care. And many of us that care a great deal have never met Kiely Rodni, can barely say her name without too much, without enough caffeine. And, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Her mother trying to shame people and guilt people out of talking about her daughter, I thought was in extremely poor taste. I hate to say anything negative about her mom or anybody in her family. I mean, what a horrible, horrible situation. I cannot imagine. Actually, I can't imagine, because something very similar happened to a close friend of my child's not too long ago. So I haven't really disclosed that. I haven't really talked about that, and I'm not going to go into it. But let me just say, I get it, okay? I understand what's going on here with the big picture. So without further ado, let me say everything that I say is just my opinion, my theory, my thoughts, and my feelings. It is just hearsay. It's for conversation and entertainment and educational purposes solely. So I do like to speak freely, and I also do like to be careful of what I say and how I say it. So I also like to be careful of people's names when I don't know facts, right? So a lot of times I'll use initials. And in this case, there's a name that keeps popping up that I want to delineate for you, because I finally had it delineated completely last night. Okay, the name is Nate. there are at least 3 Nates that I know of that were allegedly at this party. One of them is Nate C., who was arrested on August 10th for a situation, I spoke about it yesterday, a 15-year-old girl who died in June in the area, that he was arrested for giving her fentanyl and for lewd and lascivious acts, and he's 20. So he was at this party. I think he might have been the guy that was with Kate and Jagger when they went on their little wild goose chase in Reno with Fox TV following along. There was a third individual, and it was a male, and he was shorter than Jagger. He was wearing a ball cap like Jagger. He had some of the same features. He looked to me like he might be Latin American. And that would fit with the last name. How do you say it? I totally hacked it yesterday. It's like Cabacungan. So Cabacungan. Nate Cabacungan. So he's in jail. He was arrested 4 days after Kiely's disappearance. And he may or may not have had a romantic involvement with Kiely or with Sammy. It seems that Kiely and Sammy had a romantic involvement with somebody in common. Could be Jagger, could be a Nate. It sounds like it was definitely a Nate at that party that they were both interested in, or one was an ex of, or something. So the 2 other Nates, real quick. This one blew my mind. One of your Nates is Nate Wu. That would be the sheriff of Placer County's son. I knew that sheriff had children and that one of them had just graduated. 2 of them are boys, and I don't know if the young men, if Nate is the one that just graduated or if he might be the one that's older. The one that just graduated, I believe, is the youngest. But again, I'm going to promote looking up the affidavit from May 15th, 2022. If you want it to be read to you out loud, I have that on a YouTube video. I think it was my 4th one. And it has, in the thumbnail, it has like a little justice thing, and it looks pretty obvious that it's an affidavit, and I think it says the affidavit or something like that. It's relatively dry because it's just 30 minutes of me reading, and it's also extremely, extremely important. What I was saying yesterday is that the sheriff of Placer County was the lead on Kiely's case up until the day that she was discovered in Nevada County. So the missing persons case was his case, and Nevada County was helping, I believe. California Highway Patrol was helping. FBI was helping, and I'm not sure who all else. I thought they said they had like 18 different entities, 60 individual professional law enforcement folk, and close to 20,000 hours logged. And, you know, we all know that they didn't find her. They wrapped it up, and then a couple days later, AWP found her. So once AWP found her, it shifted from a Placer County missing persons case to a Nevada County homicide, or I'm sorry, no, look at that Freudian slip. I mean, I'm just so convinced that it was. I'll just say that. But it was a Nevada County death investigation. So when you have somebody who's deceased, you absolutely have to handle it as if it were a homicide. You have to rule that out. So somebody could have died of a heart attack. They could have died because they tripped and fell and they overreacted and died. I mean, there's a lot of ways somebody can die. Unattended is what they call it. So if it's an unattended death, I mean, you don't know. If she's already deceased, you don't know if somebody was there and left or not. But they did know that nobody was there when they found her, to the best of their knowledge. And so law enforcement handles unattended deaths as homicides until they can rule that out. You know, just to make sure, just to be on the safe side. So that's an important thing. You know, there's so many facts like that unless you are law enforcement, have been law enforcement or know somebody who is, you might not know that. So I have said before that I do have family members that are military and law enforcement. So I've been around this stuff my whole life. My professional background is mental health. I've done a lot of legal work with mental health. So the most poignant of which was doing 72-hour holds on people to evoke their civil rights because they were a danger to self or others due to a mental health crisis. So, I'd have to testify in court. I'd have to draft up the court papers. Your documentation is extremely important. But let me add this. When I would evaluate somebody and I would detain them against their will, and it didn't matter if they were cooperative and wanted to go, usually I still had to detain them against their will for safety purposes, right? And, they're kind of treated the same. When you enter a psychiatric facility for that 72-hour hold for further assessment, you're not allowed out. At least in California, at that point in time, you weren't. So I did this in Washington State. I got my training in California, actually, in the Bay Area, in a psychiatric hospital there. But I want to reel it in, my point being that to document your case, that you're detaining this person, you have to have substantial evidence, right? And you have to document that evidence very carefully so that it doesn't look like you illegally strip somebody of their civil rights. I mean, that's not how you do it. This is America. So to document that, I would often use quotes of the individual themselves. Those are your best quotes. Also, maybe a quote from a spouse or a person close to the client that has a lot of clout and can provide a very solid backstory. Also, if I were to not detain somebody, if I were to say, this person is safe to go home, they have these issues, but they can be monitored with this, and this, that would be called a less restrictive alternative, which was the law. In Washington State, you had to provide a less restrictive alternative if possible. So you would have to document very carefully why this is safe. So if anything happens, they're going to go back to your paperwork and say, look, this is on you. You let them free and they went and killed somebody. I mean, I'd seen county designated mental health professionals who that happened to. I'd also seen colleagues who evaluated somebody and then the person offed themselves. And, that's a really hard thing for somebody to live with. But if you've done your job and you've done it well, that's really all you can do. So on that, I want to stay on topic. Just, like I said, telling you a little bit about myself. So I've covered the two Nates. We have a third Nate. We have Nate Hambrick, Hambrecht. So Nate Wu, Nate Hambrick, and Nate Kabakangan, I think. Kabakangan. Anyway, those are our three Nates, all right? I haven't heard anybody outline and nail down those three Nates. So on to the next topic. I have some notes here, and like I said, it's a little bit early for me to really have my head together, but I like to get these done early because the light, as you can see in the background, the light is the freaking enemy, man. It's the hardest part of doing these. It's ridiculous. So some things I've been thinking about that I haven't spoken to yet, but I am going to now, is the theme of a Disney movie called Frozen, okay? I actually have never seen the whole movie. I have children. That movie has played in my house probably 100 times. I'm busy doing my mommy stuff, right? And it's just, it can be interesting for a moment, but it just doesn't get my interest the way some of them do, like Monsters Inc. or Shrek, Finding Nemo. Elsa is your lead character in Frozen, and Anna and Elsa are sisters, and there's a huge jealousy factor, right? Huge. So I just have thought it was interesting that Elsa is the name of this other character in the Kiely Rodni story. Elsa may or may not be Xana May's niece cousin, cousin niece. And Xana May's actual name on her Facebook is Anastasia something. So that would be Anna. Interesting. Coincidence? There's a saying in detective work, which is there's no such thing as a coincidence when you're dealing with a homicide. Okay? And so, I don't know if this Elsa character in the Kiely Rodni case is real or not. I have no idea. No flippin' idea. I don't know anything about Xana May other than that she just keeps popping up all over the place and that she's sketch and very suspicious. Okay, this has not been spoken to that I know of, and I find this extremely important, okay? The ram horn sticker on the back of Kiely's vehicle. Why is that important? For a couple of reasons. One is that Sammy mentioned it as something significant. And she called it a bull, and it's actually a ram. And as much as I know about animals, I like to Google everything so I can get my facts straight. A ram is a male goat or sheep, right? And I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with the saying goat, which is greatest of all time. Those are the initials. So, when you say this person is the goat, it's a compliment. You're saying that they're the greatest of all time. They're also, the ram is the dominant entity in a group of followers, basically. If you're dealing with goats, they're stubborn. If you're dealing with sheep, they're very compliant. So, just interesting to me that sticker was on her car and that people haven't really spoken about it. It's also, I hate to say this, it's questionable if it has a cult connection. And let's just use a different word that I've seen on CNY, which is community. And not to confuse the two, but it's a question if ram horns are symbolic of a specific type of community. All right? On one of my favorite YouTubers right now, a couple of my favorites are like Zav Girl, Captain Kurt Reacts, Harsh Reality, Ryan Upchurch, Plunder, Watch the Obsession. I could go on. There's some really good ones, right? Gizela at Grizzly True Crime. Harsh Reality. And an All American Cartel, LLC something. Reacts, I think. An All American Cartel, LLC Reacts. Anyway, I thought he was kind of out there at first, but, he has some really good points, and he knows he's kind of going over the line. But back to Harsh Reality. On one of his shows, I think it was from the day before yesterday, he mentions that Kiely was found in the fetal position. And I don't know if that's true. I have not heard that anywhere else. I've only heard that from him. I imagine that he might have slipped, that is true, and that, nobody else knows that for sure. Or maybe some people know it at this point, but they're not sharing it because, it's just not time. So when he said that, he stated it as it was a fact, and I figured that he probably had some documentation of that somebody sent him, and that it's probably accurate, but I don't know. I just found it fascinating. So I just wanted to put that information out there, that she may or may not have been found in the fetal position in the back of the boot, as they call it in England. the boot of the car. We call it the trunk, or the back in a CRV. The very, very back. The cargo area is a really good specific way to describe it. So yesterday I mentioned the Joran van der Sloot case because I am concerned if Kiely was murdered and her killers are running around free, that if they get pushed, that they might strike again. So Joran van der Sloot allegedly got away with Natalie Holloway's murder, if you guys remember that case. And about 5 years later, he was in Lima, Peru, and a young woman named Stephanie Rios Ramirez, had been flirting with him at the table and went back to his room with him and was slaughtered by him. And he's been in prison in Lima, Peru ever since that trial. In Googling that, I Googled it just because I wanted to find out her name. I don't like to remember the villains' names. I like to remember the victims' names. And, you know, in our culture, we all do that. We all remember the Charles Manson. We don't remember the Sharon Tates. And it's pretty sick. I mean, a lot of these narcissistic maniacs do it for the 15 minutes of fame. You know, it's twisted, but they do, some of them. I'm sure, you know, they're driven by different motives. But basically every homicide is driven by power and control. So often that is money. You know, the old saying, follow the money. That is pretty accurate for just about every case. And sex and jealousy. So looking at those factors in this situation, I think, will help get to the truth, and in most situations. So Stephanie Flores Ramirez, I don't want to see another situation like that happen on any of these college campuses where any of these potential suspects may be, and maybe making TikToks and videos and Instagrams of themselves singing songs that are very eerie and sound a lot like the situation potentially of what happened with Miss Kiely. It's the flagrancy is it's shocking, and at the same time it's how these people roll these days. You know, when they commit these crimes and they're in these communities or clubs or gangs or whatever it is you want to call them, they have to have evidence and they have to have clout. And, you know, there's some type of mafia air undercurrent to what's going on, in my opinion, in my conspiracy theory opinion, allegedly. Okay, Rich Lux is where I got that. He's a interesting YouTuber. He's funny. I really like him. Anyway, I don't like to steal anybody's ideas. I like to give credit. So, you know, what I'm trying to do on my channel is streamline information, because there's so much out there and it's overwhelming. I admit I am completely overwhelmed. So I just glean what I can and then try to make these tapes, because the whole reason I started my channel was that I didn't feel like I was finding the information I wanted to find in this case. And so I finally tried to pull it together and make it happen. So one of the things I've wanted to say about Sammy, I think I've said it once before, is that she reminds me a lot of Amanda Knox. And again, the Amanda Knox case is not the Amanda Knox case. It's the Meredith Kercher case. And she was a very lovely young woman, maybe not so different from Kiely. You know, these other characters are kind of more your type A personalities, and these women who have been victimized are extremely interesting creatures, beautiful, intelligent, talented, and, you know, not so much type A, not so assertive or aggressive, just more mellow. And I think that these type A personalities are extremely threatened by that. And then when this other beauty is taking away attention from men that they want the attention of, it just doesn't end well. Not for these situations. So the last videotape that we've seen of Sammy that she put up and took down within a few hours, she's wearing a black tank top, I think, and she's got like a black thing around her throat. And it just struck me yesterday, that black thing around her throat. At first I thought it was just like a, ribbon choker or something to look cute, stylish. But then I was like, it is very reminiscent of what looks like a white t-shirt tied around Kiely's chin or neck in that disturbing photograph that is taken of her asleep in the back of the car. And she's wearing that flannel shirt that Sammy is wearing, a very similar, if not the exact same shirt in her Scalpers video. If you haven't seen the Scalpers video, you don't want to. That was the one that came out a long, long time ago, like a week after Kiely went missing or a week after she was found. And myself, and I think a lot of other people, had no faith that that was actually her. I thought that has got to be some other ridiculous teenager just being silly and making this really distasteful video. And apparently it's her in the video, scalping somebody or pretending to scalp somebody and saying chances of getting killed by your bestie are low. And then at the end it says something like the person who she's holding their hair like she's scalping them. I think the print says, "I promise I won't tell anyone." It seems like a pretty direct threat to me that she's making sure to silence anybody who knows anything. So just one other point that I want to make today. I'm trying to keep these short because, like I said, I know we're all extremely busy and there's so much information. And so I'm hoping to be kind of like a Cliff Notes go-to. Cliff's Notes, it's either one. I looked that up too. I love Google. So the last thing I wanted to say on this one is about two things. Joran Vandersloot has a child named Dusey, D-U-S-E-Y. So I knew he'd gotten married while in prison, but a child named Dusey, maybe that's a name in Holland. I've never heard it. But I tend to use the term douchebag when I think somebody is a real dirtbag, just to like hit my point home. But anyway, I digress. So Miro is this weird character who the only time that I've seen his face is in a Ryan Upchurch video. So again, shout out to Upchurch. And Miro was like sending him messages during a live saying, "Call me, call me, call me." And lo and behold, Upchurch called him. And then they were like doing FaceTime. And he was just this bizarre character who seemed like he was from left field, but he knew Ronnie, or at least he knew Ronnie's shoes. Those are Ronnie's shoes. So Upchurch, if you don't know the story, he had texted him a picture of these shoes that he took a screenshot of, just some sneakers, without any words. And this was early in their conversation. This was, I think, before he called him, because he was like, "I'm not going to call this guy. Who is this guy thinking that he can tell me to call him on a live? That's crazy." And then he just sent that text of the screenshot of the sneakers, and nothing had been mentioned about Ronnie in my recollection, but Miro's response was, "Those are Ronnie's shoes." And Upchurch was just like, "What?" So they spoke on FaceTime, and Miro was just this really weird kid who is on Xaname's Facebook page in a picture with her looking like they're at a family wedding. So that's who Miro is, if you haven't been able to follow along. My goodness, I would recommend, if you have not been able to follow along with all of this shenanigans, let me recommend Ryan Upchurch's first two videos about Ronnie. The one's called Red Flag Ronnie, and Red Flag Ronnie 2. Those are really informative, and they're also funny. Ryan Upchurch was a stand-up comedian before he became a rock star, a YouTube rock star, and now, he's been really interested in true crime. So he's kind of doing all three, and we haven't heard from him in about a week. I think his new house got finished, and he's been just living his life and moving into that. And, he really seems to be able to break these cases because he has the money. He has the clout. I honestly think that these people would have gotten away with murder of Kiely if not for Upchurch. And man, that guy has some spidey senses. He can call things out, and he's not afraid to. He's not afraid to be wrong. He's not afraid to call things out. He's not afraid of getting sued. He doesn't get embarrassed. He has a very thick skin. You don't like Upchurch, he don't care. So, he's done a lot for Kiely Rodni, I think. And I'm hoping to be a justice seeker and a fighter for Kiely. I hope that her family is too. It sounds like her father and her grandfather most certainly are. AWP and some other YouTubers. And, I can't imagine that her mom is not. But her mom has had Jagger and Kate move into the house. I mean, most people, when they have a child pass away, they make their child's room into a shrine. They absolutely can't touch anything. They can't get rid of their clothing, can't get rid of their possessions, can't turn it into a sewing room or a craft room or a room for a family member, a guest room. Like, nobody touches that room. So I don't know where Kate and Jagger are staying, other than that the news on the street is that they're staying somewhere at the Lost Lodge. I hope that that's in one of the cabins, not in the house, but I don't know. I mean, there's a little brother of Kiely's that lives in that house too. And if these people are as shady as they seem, they might not have committed the deed, but they are certainly part of some criminal activity if they knew of things and their accessories before, during, or after the fact. I really want to see everybody get charged, everybody who has broken the law, especially these people that are going on YouTube and trying to gaslight the entire YouTube community. And I'll just say some names that I believe are doing just that. And one of them is SF Investigates. As far as I'm concerned, that man is insane. And he's an egomaniac. He totally has like the white male privileged attitude. He thinks he can say and do anything and be respected. And he is just absolute garbage, in my opinion. He can't even keep a story straight for one sentence. He talks out of both sides of his mouth, and he's just hideous. He's confabulating, making shit up constantly. And his channel, don't look at his channel. Don't give him any likes. Don't give him any clicks. I'm pretty sure, allegedly, it's the Morbid Reality true crime channel, but he's just spineless, in my opinion. Also, I really question Check It TV. That guy, shady. And, of course, Zanime. Zanime is shady AF. And so is Hazmat. No, I'm just kidding. Hazmat's cute. That poor little dog. Ugh. Anyway, these people are just scum, in my humble opinion. Absolute scum. And what are they doing? it seems to me, allegedly in my opinion, that they are the cleanup crew, that they're trying to cover up what's been done, and that they think they're so smart. And I'm sure they're connected. I'm sure that they are not only connected with each other, allegedly in my opinion, but connected with local law enforcement and the community, the secret special community. So there's been some ideas kicked around about like an initiation, a hazing might have occurred that cost Kiely her life. And I suspect that that's accurate in some fashion. And I don't know if that is like an initiation rite into the secret society special community. Nate Hembrick's father is in a leadership position in, allegedly, in a secret community that has another name that starts with a C also, and is only 4 letters, and the last one is T, and it's not see you next Tuesday. So I'm going to wrap this up here, and thanks again for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, comment, share with your friends, and I hope to keep getting better with my lighting and with my content, of course, too, especially with the technology. I'm not technologically inclined, but I'm working on it. I'm on a learning curve. I really want to be able to share my screen with photographs and videos the way all these cool YouTubers do. So on that, thank you very much. Have a fabulous day. It is Tuesday, as I mentioned earlier. Be productive, be happy, be healthy. Take care of yourself and the people around you and your plants and animals. And peace. Take it easy. I'll see you at the next one. Thanks so much.